Here we go, doing the Facebook live stream on our newest page, the CRA Academy. And for some reason, it's not.
Do you want me to push it out further?
Yeah, just see what we can do. It's just not cooperating, huh? Okay, so we're gonna wait, and we're gonna be talking about how to find the PIs. But I know a lot of people have been asking different questions because I sent out an email blast yesterday. So if you're not subscribed, first of all, make sure you subscribe. Go to theclinicaltrialsguru.com and sign up to the email list. It is free, of course, and you'll be notified of these webinars as they happen. So a lot of people actually emailed me. I didn't even tell you. They emailed me topics they would like us to cover for the next webinar.
Okay.
And then I told them, well, actually, in this webinar, and we will do that, but in this webinar, we will have a Q&A session after. So I think the Q&A is on. Let me make sure. Oh, we're getting some viewers in here. Q&A is on, so people can actually type in their questions. I think it's on. Can someone type in a question? I want to see if I'm getting it. Okay, so it's taking a while to load. Okay, so yeah, you can actually ask your questions. We'll be able to get to it and answer it. And so this topic, this webinar is going to be about how to find PIs for your research clinic, or even if you're a CRO. Actually, we have a CRO startup, and we have some interesting, I think we've found an interesting way, and I don't think we're the first ones to do it. The SMOs have been doing it for some time, but we found a way to reverse engineer the whole patient recruitment problem. And guess what? The patient recruitment problem is actually a physician problem, right? Not enough doctors are aware of clinical research. You don't necessarily have to have every doctor you meet be your PI or your sub-I for you to be successful. You just need them to refer patients when possible. I actually had a question yesterday and did a video on this very topic. And if someone can just type in a sample question or a real one, that way I can see if I'm getting them, that would be great. So we're scheduled to go half an hour, but if you have questions and we have a good dialogue going, we can go for a little bit longer. So let's start talking about how to find principal investigators for your research company. So not just your research site, but your research company in general. It applies, the principles can apply whether you're a site, an SMO, or a CRO, or even a sponsor looking for physicians, right? I mean, they do it all the time. They have sales reps going out. So the first way, Chris, what we discussed last time was door knocking, right? Mm-hmm. And you've done this the other day. You went out with one of the coordinators. How did that go? Just let everyone know.
Well, I think it's a numbers game. And I'm not certain what that number is that you need to see in order to accomplish something. But we had two very promising, for lack of a better word, leads that were interested. We weren't looking for PIs necessarily. We were just looking for referrals.
Okay. Yeah.
And
same. There's a lot of overlap when recruitment or PIs, whether it's patients or PIs. Oftentimes, you're going to be doing the same thing, going to the same places.
One of the ways that we suggest is door knocking. So this would be a similar situation. But two of the physicians that we visited with were very interested, and they were going to look over their databases for us and see if they could refer anybody.
Okay. So how did that go? How long did you guys spend doing that? Where did you go? Did you have a list of people to see?
Well, this was kind of off the cuff, just spur of the moment kind of thing. So we went out for about 3 hours, and we went to maybe a dozen facilities.
Okay.
And of those dozen, two seemed interested in referring.
Now, how many were there? How many doctors from those dozen did you actually meet face to face?
3.
3.
Mhm.
And from those 3, 2 were interested.
One.
1.
Yeah. One doctor was actually interested, and the other one was the office manager.
Okay.
And she said the doctor would be interested. She spoke for the doctor.
So very similar to how to get more studies. I mean, honestly, it's a numbers game. You need to go out. You need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I say that a lot. A lot of people say that all the time. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. You're going to get told, no, we're not interested. Get out of here.
But they're not rude about it.
They're not. Typically not. It depends how you present yourself too.
Typically, most people tend to be nice.
Right.
And
But just be prepared.
You will hear no a lot, but nicely.
You will hear no a lot. Okay, nicely. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of too many times where like they've been rude. When I was door knocking physicians' private practices, but yeah, you will hear no way more than you hear yes. And the problem with a lot of these research sites, SMOs, whatever, is that they try something. They're going to probably listen to this webinar and say, okay, yeah, let's go door knocking.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to try it for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get told no like 10 times. And they're going to quit, right? And then who knows, like your 11th time, you may find a doctor who has 30 patients for your study.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or in this case, what the webinar is about, might
PI.
be interested in working with you.
Might be interested in working with you. So that's actually how we discovered the door knocking way of attracting PIs. I mean, it's nothing that others probably haven't done, but we actually used to go out to recruit patients. And then a lot of the doctors, when we got a chance to meet with them face to face, said, oh yeah, we are actually very interested in participating in studies. How do I go about doing that? So now you're educating them. And that's an industry-wide problem, is lack of awareness, not just amongst patients, but amongst physicians. I mean, less than 10% of physicians even participate in clinical trials ever, right? And there's some alarming statistic that from the principal investigators that conduct their first studies, like 70% of them or something crazy like that never do another study.
I've read the same thing.
Yeah, or it might be even higher than 70. So, okay, door knocking is one way.
I would recommend in the door knocking, the lower hanging fruit, in my opinion, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, would tend to be lower income clinics, privately owned.
And why? Why is that?
So now you're not going to want to go, at least again, my opinion, it's going to be more difficult to meet with a doctor or what have you. If you're going to a county clinic, a state funded clinic,
university,
right, much more difficult. But if you go to a privately owned clinic in a lower income area, doctors are a little bit harder up for money. I mean, just putting it out there bluntly. So I think you'll have a little better success going to lower income, privately owned clinic. That's not to say you couldn't have any success at a county clinic. It's just going to be more difficult to get through the gatekeepers, my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we actually recommended Monica do at one of our other sites, right? Because she's been trying with the private insurance cash physicians who typically deal with the middle upper class demographics. Hasn't had that much success, and now she's going towards some of the lower income areas where the physicians are seeing Medicare, Medi-Cal patients. And unfortunately, Medicare, I mean, ask 10 doctors this, and you're going to hear them. None of them are going to have anything good to say about Medicare. They're all moving away from that. So you're going to have an underserved population of patients, of course, but also physicians, because those physicians are used to dealing with a certain demographic, a certain patient population, and they're going to have to adapt or go out of business. I know a lot of doctors that recently have told me after this year they're no longer doing Medicare, and they'd like to use research to subsidize their income.
Sure.
Right? And then they ask us how to do that. And then we get into the consulting side of things, or even the partnership, because that's what we do in our day jobs at DSCS Sweat Equity and Investments. Right? So good point with that, Chris. Now, option number 2 would be What was option number 2?
Advertising.
Advertising. Oh, where would you start advertising to get PIs or sub-investigators? Because they're all going to start as sub-Is first, unless you don't have any physician and you have several studies that you know you can get and you need a PI, which is the case with one of our clients in Michigan, right? So unless you really need a doctor because you have studies but you can't do them, you're not going to start the doctors you find as PIs. You're going to start them ideally as sub-Is, see how you like them, see how you guys build a rapport, see how much they like research, because a lot of doctors will say they like research. Again, back to that statistic, right? Many doctors who start their first study never do a second study. This was a topic of discussion at Scope back in February. So you want to start them off as a sub-I unless you have no other choice. So advertising is another way. And specifically, what platforms have we used at DSCS to help our clients find PIs? Because we do this a lot.
Well, there's a number of different platforms. I would always recommend starting with Craigslist because it's the least expensive.
Craigslist,
And
okay.
if you're going to accomplish your goal by spending the least amount of money, of course, that makes the best business sense. Correct?
Right.
So Craigslist, surprisingly, doctors do look at it and they will respond.
Yeah, and that's counterintuitive. So when I started, I just thought Craigslist was not to be taken seriously amongst physicians, but it actually is. I mean, we've experimented with Facebook ads, we've experimented with LinkedIn ads. I really thought the LinkedIn ads would be where we can find the PIs. We've experimented with Twitter, we've experimented with Google.
And these are all vastly more expensive than
Yes.
Craigslist.
Yes, Craigslist, depending on your market, you're going to pay anywhere from $25 to $75, right? 75 would be like San Francisco, New York, LA, the bigger markets. And then if you're in a smaller market or a mid-sized market, it's going to be about 25 to 30. So somewhere in between that range, you get the post, and in the paid ads, you get less scam type stuff. Right? They're still there, but they're less. And so the physicians actually tend to look at it a little more seriously and give some consideration to it. And we've learned, has there ever been a market where we've run a Craigslist ad to recruit PIs for longer than 3 months where we didn't get any leads?
Now, we've done this for a number of areas. People have hired us to find them PIs.
All across the country.
Right.
Yeah.
While they may understand that this is what needs to be done, just placing ads, a lot of people don't have time, and they reach out to Dan or I and ask us to handle this for them, which we will do.
Yep.
Up until just recently, we've never had a problem with Craigslist. It's always worked very effectively. Most recently, though, we've ran approximately 2 months of ads, and we just had our first response this last Thursday.
After 3 months?
2 months.
2 months. Okay. So yeah, so we still haven't gone more than 3 months without getting.
We've now had 3 responses in the last 3 or 4 days. We've had 3 responses.
Okay.
In 2 months.
And they're good. They're good.
2 of them.
2 of them are good. What was the problem with the third?
Just now starting residency.
Okay, so you will get a lot of foreign doctors replying to your ads. You're gonna have to vet them once you get them. You definitely have to interview them. You're gonna have to do their license check. Every state has a different way to check a physician's license. You want to see if it's in good standing. This is important because some doctors who respond to ads on a Craigslist actually have some kind of issues with their license. Either it's a suspension. We've ran into this twice where we've had a doctor who had his license suspended, but he wanted to work with us in research. Of course he did. Right. And then we had another doctor whose license was going to be suspended. And I think this was public information as well. Right?
Yeah, they both are.
So you can find out a lot of this stuff for free. And then if you work at a large medical clinic, private practice, hospital, they have other software to check. Like you can do a background check. There's programs you can actually purchase to do background checks. You don't necessarily want a criminal to be your PI or your business partner. So their license,
But if their license is in good standing, you probably have to.
if their license is in good standing, yeah. So we've had a case where a doctor was self-prescribing himself pain meds, and there's no way, and his license was revoked, so there's no way he was going to be able to be a PI for us, even a sub-I for us, right? Yet he still, this was the surprising thing, he was still treating patients. I think illegally, or he found a way to do it.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, we can't.
Speculation.
No speculation, but he said he can still refer patients, but you got to be careful. Sometimes when you go on the Craigslist route, you will attract more colorful characters, right? So you do have to be careful, but Craigslist does work. You're going to have to definitely vet them out. We actually, now, and this will segue us into the third option. So one of our startup sites, we found a doctor. We actually found him from Craigslist. We had the interview present super well. He got into some issues with Medicare stuff. One of the nursing homes he was involved with was doing fraud as far as the billing was concerned, and it was all under his watch. So he had to, they threw him under the bus. This is the way he explained it to me. Okay? They threw him under the bus. So we thought we were done. You know, when he explained this to me, he didn't tell me this until like the second or third time we met. When he told me this, then we were sort of worried that, you know, this is going to put a delay on all our future studies. But what I asked him was, hey, you can still work with us. You know, we understand Medicare is tough. Sometimes they'll just throw you under the bus for things you can do. I totally get it. You can still work with us, and we're willing to have you as a sub-I, because you can still have a doctor be a sub-I for you, even if they lost their license. I mean, we've put coordinators as sub-Is many times. So they just can't do things that an MD would need to do for the study, right? Like physicals, reviewing labs, reviewing ECGs. They won't be able to do that. But what this guy was able to do, I asked him if he had any colleagues who are interested, because I told him the sponsor's you're not gonna pass their background check.
Yeah, they're gonna approve MSBI.
Right? They want to approve you. So do you have any colleagues? He found us a colleague, one of his college friends or one of his med school colleagues. And that PI actually ended up having experience in research. He had a huge CV. So it was perfect timing, serendipitous. We were able to get him on board, and we're still able to utilize the sub-I we had. So there's always another way. There's always options, right? If you think you've hit a dead end, it's not necessarily a dead end. You just got to adapt, keep trying, find different ways. So this segues us into our third way of finding PIs or sub-investigators or physicians to join your research clinic. And that is asking your current doctor or doctors in your practice, whether it's at your clinic or at your medical practice, to refer any and all of their colleagues to you, right? And Vince is asking, yeah, test question works, thanks. So we're gonna bring up the Q&A right now. If you have questions and answers, just type them in here. We're gonna get to you guys right now, all of you, so just type in your questions. So the third way is to ask your current doctors that you know to refer you their sphere of influence, their colleagues, right? And what do you do then? You just approach them, right?
Sure. Have a conversation. Obviously, you're going to want to know what's involved in research if they have no experience. They're also going to want to know about pay, of course, regardless if they have experience or not. How much of their time, just very general questions that you would anticipate anybody would ask.
Right. So test question came up. We got it. Yeah, so bring your questions in. And this order that we suggest is actually backwards. So asking your current doctors for their sphere of influence referrals is number one. Easiest and most effective. Whether you're trying to get them to join your group or try to refer patients,
Mhm.
I think it's most effective and
Sure.
most effective when you consider the opportunity cost of your time, right?
Without a doubt. Sure.
Because you're not cold calling, you're not door knocking them. You actually know them, or you know someone who knows them.
Probably the main conversation's already been had between your PI and their friend or colleague.
The icebreaker's already been done for you, so you just go in there and present research. What if you don't have yet? If you don't have a doctor, then you obviously can't go this route.
The
However,
other two.
you don't need, so I'm going to select this question. You don't need a PI necessarily. You just need to know any doctor, whether it's a friend of yours, whether it's someone who works at a hospital that you go to, your own doctor that you go to. Yesterday, I went to my endocrinologist. Thank God I don't have diabetes or prediabetes or anything like that. I was just making sure. I was a little worried about insulin resistance. I'm paranoid about my health. Thankfully, I'm fine. I asked her, I said, hey, do you want to do research? And we have PIs coming in. We have, but you always need to ask. You're not going to get the sale if you don't ask, right? So if I would have went in there and just been like a regular patient and gotten my lab results and then asked her questions about my labs, my blood work, all that stuff, and never mentioned research, nothing would have happened. So I mentioned research. She said she's not interested herself. She's got too many projects, but she took a few of my business cards, my DSCS cards, and said she's going to give it to all her colleagues because they meet regularly and they have discussed research in the past. Some of her colleagues said they're interested in it. So if I wouldn't have done that, that's another stick in the fire that may or may not materialize into anything. But if you keep doing that on a consistent basis, something is going to happen. So if you don't have any PIs,
and you have a captive audience.
Yeah, you have a captive audience. I mean, and they need to be professional and courteous. And she told me, right away, I can't do it myself, but I will take your cards and pass them to my colleagues.
It's no more than a 2-minute conversation.
Less.
Yeah, no more than 2 minutes.
Right.
I've done this a number of times myself.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes it leads to something, sometimes it doesn't, but at least you know that you tried. And so that's my answer to that question. If you don't have a PI, you got to know a doctor somewhere. One of your friends, if you're healthy and you don't see a doctor, one of your friends does, right? Somebody is going to know a doctor. You need a meeting with them. If they're not interested, you need to ask for 10 referrals. Go see their colleagues. Or if that doesn't work, go door knocking or use Craigslist ad. You can experiment with Facebook, but I'm telling you, Craigslist ad almost doesn't matter what market you're in the United States. If you run an ad consecutively for 3 months, and how often do we post on Craigslist? Twice a month?
I think it's, every other week.
Every other week. So for those of you who don't know how Craigslist works, you post and then other people post and eventually your post gets pushed down. People rarely look past page 2 or 3.
It expires after 30 days.
It expires after 30 days, but people rarely look past page 2 or 3 on Craigslist. So as your post keeps getting pushed down, every 2 weeks or so, we post another one so it gets back to the top. If you do that for 3 months, you're gonna find MDs who are interested. At that point, it's a matter of you vetting them, meeting with them, and then guess what? Let's say that they're not the right fit, or let's say their license is suspended, or let's say that
can't come to an agreement on payment.
Right.
A number of issues.
Could be anything. You ask them for their referrals. Who are your colleagues? Maybe I can get one of your colleagues involved and then bring you back in when we can afford to pay you more as we get more studies, we get more patients. I have no problem paying you more, but for now, we need to get started. This is how you do this. This is how you build your business when it comes to recruiting PIs. Any other thoughts, Chris? So if none of those options work, what do? You call me, right? And Chris, and we will do this for you. We have a team of people to do it. It may take 3 months, but we will get you a PI. We will get you started. We just did this for someone in Atlanta. We just did this for somebody in LA. Who else did we do it for?
That's it recently.
We're going to do it for one in Detroit, right?
Orlando, too.
Orlando. So we do this all the time. We have a team of people. We have systems in place. And we're always experimenting, too. Like, we're still experimenting with Facebook ads. We're still doing LinkedIn ads occasionally.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we were talking about using, and I don't recall the site because we were talking about whether or not Craigslist was going to work.
Oh yeah,
It's like $750 per post or something.
yeah. There's several sites. So if you just Google, so actually Julie reached out to me in regards to this site called Ladders, where it's a job placement site for doctors or for
Professionals.
medical executives. I did not get accepted into the group. I don't know. They didn't like my background, but you can advertise there, and it does cost. It's pretty pricey, but you probably are going to have higher quality leads than Craigslist.
Are strictly what you're looking for.
It's strictly what you're looking for, and you already know their licenses are in good standing. You can never assume that, anyways, whether you get it from Craigslist, Facebook, LinkedIn, or one of these higher classier sites like Ladders. I think it's ladders.com. You're always going to have to do your due diligence, do your background checks yourself. But Craigslist, what we found most bang for buck, and it went against all my better judgment. I thought for sure Craigslist does not work for doctors. They're not on Craigslist. Doctors are not looking for garage sales or old furniture, right? That was my thinking. But the point is, you don't know. Never have assumptions. Test your assumptions. Don't just follow your assumptions blindly. Test your assumptions. I was proven wrong with the assumptions. And this is a student calling. So we have our CRA Academy going on, and our July session. It's a good segue. We have our July CRA Academy starting in a few weeks. Actually, it's starting next week, and this is the last week to register for the CRA Academy. And I've been responding to calls all day. So that's thecraacademy.com. If you're interested in becoming a CRA, there's literally 3 days left to register for the July session. And then for those of you interested in our consulting company, it's dscssweatequity.com. That's our consulting firm. That's our CRO, and that's our holding company for most of our sites. We do have a few sites that are not in that holding company because we started those sites before DSCS was formed. But everything so far, or everything since then, has been in the holding company. Actually, the CRA students who graduate the academy will become interns and will become in-house quality assurance staff for our sites, and each one who passes the final exam or who graduates is going to be assigned to a site and one or more studies. Initially one study and then more studies. So lots of projects going on. Don't want to get too off track. If anyone else has any other questions, get them in here now. I know some of you guys responded to the email and had a bunch of questions about other topics. We will cover those. Those are actually really good ideas for future webinars. So Chris and I, as soon as we're finished here, we're going to look at those emails and decide what our next webinar will be. I think we already promised that our July webinar is going to be about patient recruitment. We're all passing. Yep, I sure hope so, Vince. I hope you guys all pass because we actually need all of you to pass, right? And I appreciate the referrals you sent earlier. So next month's webinar, the same time next month, July, like the last week of July, we're going to be doing it on patient recruitment. And we're actually going to have to do that one from Irvine, Chris, because Monica's going to be on it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so we're going to do that one from our other clinic. We're going to have 3 of us on there. One of them is our
Something nice to
recruiter.
look at than you and I.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Much more easy on the eyes than us. And it's going to be all about patient recruitment. But then for August, for September, for October, for November, for every month, we're going to be doing a webinar for you guys. And we have plenty of topics from the emails that have been coming in. Some of them are more appropriate for CRAs. So we might have Shanae on the Google Hangout. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff. It's been busy. we need to go. I need to get back to these students that are calling. And unless you guys have any other questions, thank you very much for watching. Anything else you want to add here?
No, I think that was an excellent webinar.
We covered it all, and it's 12:30. So thank you guys all for watching. Try some of these strategies. Hopefully it helps. Let me know if it doesn't. Let me know if you found other ways. I mean, there's some creative people out there.
And of course, if you're not comfortable doing it, we'll do it for you.
That's the most important part, right? But you can do all this for yourself for free. But if you don't want to or you don't have time, we'll do it. All right. Thank you guys very much for watching. Until next time, Dan and Chris, theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.